Hey guys, welcome to Reality Check Week 3. If you've been with us the last couple of weeks, you know that the podcast is connected to the worship series that we're doing here at Trietsch, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. Seems like people are liking it. So tonight, it's my honor to interview and just have a conversation with two good friends. Amy Parsons, who many of y'all here at Trietsch know. She is our worship coordinator. She also, in Louisville schools, is a substitute. She her other skill set includes dancing, singing. She just recently was a stray cat in the show Cat.
I don't know about stray.
That's impressive.
I think I had an owner somehow. But
No, I like to call you stray cat. She's a mom, she's a wife, she's an actress, and just an all-around good person most of the time.
Oh, you're sweet.
Well,
Thank
most
you,
of the
Doug.
time.
It's good
You're
to be
welcome.
here.
Coach Barry Hawkins. What do people call you? Coach or Coach Barry or Mr. Hawkins or what?
I prefer Coach Doug.
Coach.
Coach Doug.
I'm just kidding.
Tonight, since we're so close, you want me to call
Yeah.
you Coach Barry or Coach
You can call
Hawkins?
me whatever. Coach is fine.
But not whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
going to call you whatever. So I know we're having fun. Barry has been a teacher over 25 years. What's the big number?
29.
29. Woo, that's almost 30.
It is. That's
I do-
good math.
I
Doug.
do math quickly. Barry is the golf coach at Byron Nelson High School and also teaches creative writing. I never would have thought those two would go together, but that's
unusual, isn't it?
It's stereotyping.
He's a Renaissance man.
But here's the cool thing, y'all. I know you can tell just by looking at him, but he was the high school golf coach of the year.
Oh,
I know.
super
I
cool.
wanted to,
Thank
you
you.
to bring your plaque.
Congratulations.
My plaque?
Did you get a plaque or
I
trophy
couldn't
or
bring
chicken
them all,
dinner?
Doug. There's too many to
I
carry.
know it. I know it. Well,
This is
I
a
like
tiny
your-
table.
I appreciate your humility. I think you're really modeling
Wow.
that very well for our... All right, so tonight we're going to talk about some kind of heavy stuff. And to remind you guys, as if you didn't already figure this out, we are not experts in much of anything other than just being having big hearts and caring for kids and students and kind of the state of the world, especially as it comes to our kids in the classroom.
Absolutely.
So our hope tonight is to talk some about kids and their anxiety. That might morph a little bit into hard stuff that teachers and substitute teachers face. As parents, we're probably going to get that in there a little bit. So first of all, so you're with kids almost every day, whether you're teaching or back when you were director at Footlights. What do you see in the doings that you have with them that stirs them up or that creates anxiety or worry or kind of just moves the needle for them? Which one of y'all want to take that first?
Well, grades. I mean, they really get stressed, especially when in a certain time of the grading period, into the 6 weeks or 9 weeks. So grades, turning in work on time. I mean, make sure they get everything done. I think that creates a lot of stress within the students.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think just our culture in general, we have this, you have to reach this, we set our expectations on what we think for every kid is here,
Yeah.
instead of every kid's expectations sort of being different. And I think they all feel they have to strive to this point instead of their best. There's a certain point, and I think that puts a lot of pressure. You might not be the best at this, but maybe you're good at this. But we want you to really, really get good at this instead of celebrating the skill set that they might have, kind of a thing.
Yeah, there's that sense of being a part of something because we see too many kids who may step on a large campus and not be a part of a club or a group or an extracurricular and they're isolated. So I think kids' search for being a part stresses them out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm guessing that we as parents have either purposely or inadvertently contributed to that. Like we were talking to Colton last week, one of our high school kids that just graduated, sharp guy, named achievement anxiety as one of his things that just, ate his lunch. To look at him on the outside, he had the world by the tail. But knowing that every day, running faster, jumping higher grades, singing whatever, was just gnawing at him.
Right.
And the mom and dad all the time were saying, just be a kid.
Right.
Just be a kid.
Right.
Just be a kid.
We love you for who you are and that kind of
So
stuff.
what kind of messages do you speak into the kids when either achievement anxiety or, hey, my golf swing is off or, whatever your realm is, how do you help bring them down? Like, how can you be or are you a calming presence when you see that percolating up?
Well, early on, when you're establishing relationships with them, to let them know exactly what you're about. I mean, even though I may be considered an expert in my field, I want them to know immediately that I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know everything there is.
Yeah.
I can help them and support them and find the answers, but a lot of times I'm on the same level with you. So if we can establish that relationship of trust to where I can tell them, hey, let's take a break here. Let's take a deep breath, and it's really not that serious. Okay, there's a lot more of the things that you could be worried about. There's a lot of other things out there in the world that where the people are a little bit tougher, in a tougher situation. And as long as you can have that conversation with them, if you've established that relationship, then I think you can calm them down a little bit.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's a little bit harder because I don't always have the opportunity to have a rapport with them as a sub if I'm stepping in. Now, I do sometimes sub for the same people, and I am able to kind of build relationships. But one of the things I try to do is when they're talking about things like that, and is this going to be, and is this, and check this box, is I try to kind of bring it back around to, well, do you understand it? Are you learning the material? You know, let's don't focus so much on when the teacher gets back, is this check.
Yeah.
But do you understand what you're learning and things? And I think that's one of the things with that anxiety that we get is we forget that we're there to learn and to get an education and to be able to, you know, climb the ladder to the next class or whatever it is, not necessarily a number and checking a box.
But I think we inadvertently, we put so much pressure on the test. You know, especially, and I know there's pressure on you guys as teachers, and my wife's a teacher, to the STAR test, or, you know, it's been called a million different things over the last 10 years. But we pressure the kid for what they score. We pressure the teacher for what their kids score. We pressure the principal on how their school scores. And then we wonder, well, why is everybody worried about achievement?
Oh, yeah.
We live
I
in
can
a
speak to
culture
that
of
as a parent, but not as a teacher, because I can't sub during the STAR or anything
yeah.
because they're not allowed to be absent. And I know my husband has had different, you know, they have different duties that they have
Yeah.
during, and he's had some where he had to walk and he's not allowed to sit down, he's not allowed to open a book, he's not allowed to look at his phone, you know, things like that. I will never be able to do that because I can't as a sub, because they have to have,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing. It's
I
not
would-
just a test.
I would try to reassure my kids that, yes, we do have those standardized tests that we're all being evaluated. We're all being evaluated on. However, in my opinion, in my belief, that school is much more than reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah.
It's much more than that. There's a lot of other things that I'm going to try to instill into them about just
Sure.
being a better person.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to get us off track on the little STAR test thing there, but relationships. You both keep talking about the value of those. So I make up that makes the first week or two a challenge at school, because you're going to have an influx of new kids. You're always going to have new kids. As
I always
a sub,
have,
right?
most
She
of the
has
time.
a really tough job.
Because my husband teaches science, I know a lot of the science, you know, at his
Okay.
school and things like that. And so a lot of times, and once I sub, you know, I kind of will sub for the same people. And having a background in music and theater arts and dance, I love subbing over for drama and dance and things like that. And so sometimes I do. But no, a lot of times it's, hi, brand new class, I'm Miss Parsons. And, you know, try to get right up front that this is how it's going to be. And then you can kind of back off and build the rapport, but you got to be right up
The
front.
whole sub reputation.
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of deal.
The whole tack in the chair is just shifted a little bit to something different, you know, kind of a thing.
So how do you get through to the kid? Like, I make up that a bunch of the kids want to have a relationship with the teacher, because that's kind of cool to know, hey, they're you know, teacher's on my side and we're clicking. But what about the kid who goes, I don't really give a dang about the teacher. I don't want to get to know the teacher. I don't want the teacher to know me, because I don't want the teacher to know my business. Have you had any experience kind of cracking that nut?
There's always going to be a few. They're like that. They're a little bit more difficult to get inside their head a little bit,
Yeah.
to crack that wall, whatever it is. But my only advice and my only thing would be to just keep trying. I mean, there's something that student is interested in. You just keep finding it, just keep searching, and it's gonna happen eventually.
Yeah.
But it comes back to, again, as I said before, if I present myself in the classroom as just this stern expert and all we're going to do is write, then you're not going to reach that kid. I mean, you've got to find what they're interested in and have those conversations with them, and then that's when you're able to crack that nut.
So what, Barry, have you experienced, like for that kid who continues to withdraw, the kid, or whatever other qualities they demonstrate? What do you look for, and then, what kind of sends off a red light in your mind?
As far as the signs that I see,
Yeah,
that isolation that's going on.
Yeah, well, if that's one of them.
That's one of them. It's the mood swings, again, the isolation. They just kind of keep to themselves. There's certain things again that you can do, but again, I can't stress how important enough it is to continue to have the conversations with them. And maybe it's not, obviously, it may not work in front of the class, but find time where you can have that conversation with him, maybe in the cafeteria, maybe in the hallway, maybe at an extracurricular event if you could get them there, and then maybe they can open up a little bit.
It sounds like it's all about that spark of connection. No matter what it is, right? Sports, golf, music, writing, music, something. That kid's going to have that little point that you can kind of go, oh, okay, here's my door. Yeah. Amy, not to put you on the spot.
That's all right.
Put you on the spot.
I knew I was going to be on the spot. Here I am on the spot.
So, it's all of these different qualities, reflect all the different qualities of our kids. And we know that there's a certain amount of our population that struggles with things just like adults struggle with things. One of those being depression. You have been very public about your struggle with depression. Do you think that helps you kind of have a different set of eyes and ears, radar?
I do. I think, yes, I have wrestled both in my early 20s and then again 5 or 6 years ago realized I was at a point where I needed to reach out and get some help again. And I think it has made me very empathetic, as opposed, a lot of people can be sympathetic, but until you have been there and felt that and had the, I just want to lay here and I don't want to go do anything and no food tastes good and some of the physiological things that you feel you can't quite understand. And so when you see a kid, I know I've had students come in when I'm subbing and like you were saying, you can kind of just feel right off the bat, they come in by themselves or they're sitting here or whatever. And it's not like, especially as a sub, if I'm there for one day, I'm going to, shatter the universe necessarily. But even sometimes by making a point to reach out to that kiddo and just, hey, if nothing else, I notice you. And, I'm glad that you're here, or find somebody. And of course, depending on the age of the student, they're not going to want me to come over and rub their head and, hey, that kind of stuff. But I do think it gives a little, and I'm in a weird way kind of thankful because that gives me some way to kind of give back. In a way and say, hey, for whatever it's worth. And that's why I have, after probably about 5 years ago, started being more vocal about that. I lost a friend to suicide, and I said, you know what? This is the same thing. The serotonin in my brain chemicals being different is no different than insulin and, somebody's, what is it, the pancreas? I can't remember all the, sorry, biology teachers, don't hire me now. But there's not a difference in one chemical in another or one organ in another, but yet we kind of, have this big taboo.
I wonder what it would be like. This is kind of for both you guys. Like I am drawn to, and I respect people who are able to kind of name their struggle, whatever it is, whether it's addiction or a mental health challenge or whatever. Wonder what it would be like if teachers somewhere along the way said, "Yeah, I have." I mean, I know that shows a risk of vulnerability of a student abusing that. But I wonder what that would be like if kids knew, oh yeah, in my past, or because I think there's such great value in a teaching moment. What do y'all think? There's
a fine line there, though. Like you said, you have to be really, really careful. There's nothing wrong with letting yourself be vulnerable to certain things, but there's a fine line that you have to be real careful about sharing too much.
Yeah, I think they would start analyzing, not just them, but everyone would kind of start analyzing. If you said, for example, I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah.
And then are they going to constantly be going, oh, Mr. So-and-so was, I think he was drunk, or, things like that. And so you're right. I think it's a fine line between, hey, I'm human and I wrestle and I have these vulnerabilities, and let me tell you my life story and give you every piece of information about,
Yep.
And it's a tough line.
I get it. In my
It
little
is.
make-believe world, everybody's going to go, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I was
that's-
also a 16-year-old jerk once and realized that I would have taken any kind of moment of weakness of my teachers
Right.
and probably been inappropriate. And
You were a
mocked them.
jerk, Doug?
Just one time. It was April the 2nd, 1974.
Well, and that was one of the reasons it was hard for a while for me to start talking about depression, because at the time I owned a business and I was like, are people going to not trust me now? And they're
Yeah.
going to think, well, we can't put our kids there because she might go off the deep end or something, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's not what it's about, and that's not how it works, but not everybody knows that. So,
No, that's true. And we make up stories of the stuff we don't understand.
right,
So that we can
right.
understand it. When in reality,
In our
we're
own
living
way.
out of this whole fiction anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So, Coach.
Yes.
So when you're, so I'm walking down the hall at Byron Nelson, and I'm about to go into practice, or I'm going into my creative writing class.
Okay.
Do you interact with those two groups differently?
Yes and no. I've got this saying that I share it with my kids that I'm coaching and share it with the kids that I'm teaching, that even though I'm a teacher, I'm going to coach you in the classroom, and then out on the field or on the golf course, not only am I your coach, I'm going to teach you as well. But the difference is in dealing with those two different sets of kids, I mean, they're all my students, but the students I have in the classroom, I'm not going to have probably the same type of relationship that I have with the kids in my golf program, because I'm around them a lot more,
Yeah.
just yearly. I mean, so I'm going to become more familiar with the kids in my classroom and not really truly know them where I probably would know the kids in my golf program, if
Sure.
that makes any sense.
Build more relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in part, it's time,
Yeah.
but it's also you're getting to know that golf kid on a good day and on a really bad day, and a day where maybe they, sit in the back of their car and shed a tear or two or three, and, just protracted time helps. I am kind of curious, though, like, do you wear coach shorts all the time?
Really?
No,
Do you wear a whistle?
no, I don't need a whistle.
You don't have a whistle in, like, creative writing?
I
Like,
do not.
These are the deep
no.
conversations, folks.
It's just things that the public
That's-
wants to know about.
No, I do not.
Okay, well, just checking.
I wished we could. I mean, we do have a dress code we
I
have to
think the
abide by,
whistle.
but
I thought every coach came with like that whistle and a cord around
and
their
wore
neck.
the back shorts all the way up, real high.
real high.
Yeah.
It's a good look. Well, it's a good look. I just got in trouble for going off on a tangent. So,
You got the signal.
okay, all right. So, you're in the classroom all day long. You're in the classroom all day long when you're 7, and you see these kids struggling. When you walk out the door, how hard is it to leave that in the hallway? Like, you see these kids struggling. Talk to me about that, because being married to a teacher, she comes home a lot and talks about this kid or that kid, and we, try to figure out, well, how about tomorrow do this? Do you do some
Sure.
of that?
I know I do. I internalize everything, and as we said, I'm an actress theater person, and we're all just kind of balls of emotion sometimes, I think. But yeah, I think I sit there and question, ooh, could I have said something better, or how can I help this person? Am I going to be seeing them again when I sub again? And is there anything that I can do, kind of thing? And sometimes it's just that you just can't shake it. I can remember having a student tell me that they ate their lunch in the bathroom on the first day of school, and I'm just like, it brings tears to my eyes now, thinking,
Sure.
oh my gosh, and things like that. And that was probably 5 years ago that somebody told me that, and it's still
It's
right
still
now.
with you.
I remember everything about it, and several things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
you do take them home. I think
So
you love them.
when you have that kid, every teacher I think has a couple that you're drawn to, or their story, and it really just kind of eats at you. Do you have resources at school where you can kind of take them aside and say, like, if I'm at that kid, how do I go from your classroom to, let's say, the guidance counselor? Who builds that bridge or makes that introduction?
Well, at Byron Nelson, we have a little bit of a different, I think probably a little bit different situation. I mean, we deal with professional learning committees, PLCs, and a lot of times we share the same students. So we're able to have conversations on a need basis professionally within that group. But then again, we have that professional staff on campus that are much more equipped with dealing with
Right.
these situations, like you said, with the counselor. And that's a conversation, we would sit down and talk about, here's the things I see, what should we do, what can we do,
Right.
and see where it goes from
So
there.
does a kid get called out of class? I mean, I guess I'm still struggling with, how do I ever end up one day at, Mr. or Mrs. School Counselor's office or something?
You as the student?
Can I, as a student, just go make an appointment?
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're encouraged
Yeah.
and they know?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, don't discount the after class time and the in-between and stuff. I mean, even as a sub, I subbed a class one time, and a young man stayed after. It was the last class of the day for about 10 minutes, talking to me about how he had come to school hungover, and, Mrs. Parsons, I'm just a bad kid, and I said, well, I don't think that's the case. I said, it sounds like some choices you've been making aren't the best, but, and I was kind of shocked that he was opening up, but, you have those pockets of time, and, especially when you're repeating sub, and, they kind of see that you could hack it the first time, and, there starts to be a little bit of a respect for
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this sub that didn't run away in fear, whatever, and you kind of start to build up some. Then there's time after class, and there's time, and I'm sure you have a lot of time with.
Yeah, and
Offices
again,
and
just the simple conversation, I hate using the word simple, but when you ask a kid that, hey, how you doing? And then all of a sudden they open up, and again, letting them know immediately through those relationships that, listen, I may not have the answers,
Yeah.
okay, but I can certainly point you in the direction. You want to walk down there right now? And I've had that happen. And yeah, let's walk down there right now. So again, it's just talking to that kid, but we certainly have resources on campus and that can help with that stuff.
I'm glad to hear it. So Daniel talked Sunday a lot about bullying and all the different kinds of bullying and how bullying is kind of morphed.
Yeah.
Is there a venue at school? I mean, I'm sure there is. Hey, today's anti-bully day, or how do you talk about that? How does that? I just remember back when, as a nerdy kid, it was kind of a secret. You didn't tell a whole lot of people you were being bullied, because I thought I'll get bullied more by announcing I'm being bullied. How do you bring that up with students these days?
It's hard. This is hard. This is difficult because it's the bullying that we don't often see bullying. It doesn't often occur in front of us.
Yeah.
It's often occurring on social media.
Right.
It's out there. So we don't see it. We hear it, and certainly as a professional, if you see it or or you're aware of it, then you want to put a stop to it immediately. But yeah, we understand and we recognize there are issues, and we're aware of them on campus. But again, it's not something that we often see in the hallway. It's not like what you think.
I know
Yeah.
LISD did a big push on the preventive end, and the entire year, and I'm sorry, I'm going to probably mess up the slogan or whatever, it was about kindness. And the schools had these big kindness pushes and T-shirts, and you could buy kindness is cool kind of thing. And I think really trying to, you get it ahead of time and say, by the way, being a bully ain't cool, And so at least in those younger formative years, they're starting to learn that, it really is a better choice to be kind, and it's cool. And then hopefully then as they get older and it kind of permeates into the brain.
Have either of your circles of influence, i.e. your kids, have you ever had to talk through a bullying situation? I know you both have girls, and I think girls are meaner to each other.
Yeah.
Not that your girls are mean, but have they ever been the recipients of being bullied?
I really don't. I'm just, when you mention that, I'm immediately thinking about a player, not one of my own kids. But but I did have a bullying situation last year that I did not witness, but it was brought to my attention that I had to address.
Yeah.
Verbal bullying, that kinds of things,
Yeah.
I think I experienced it more than my girls did, thankfully. I would rather it be that way. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
girls, they kind of go through this, they're sweet and they're cute, and then they kind of hit this stage where you're like, who is this person? And they come out okay in the end most of the time, but during that, kind of period there, I think we would be remiss as parents to say my child will never say or do
Sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
and yet sometimes that's said, and we just need to keep our eyes open. But yeah,
I would think, I could be
experienced
wrong because I haven't been in this setting in a long, long time, but I would think middle school kids are the worst. There's just something, their filters are just not there.
Well, and I think especially in boys, they're a lot more daring.
Yeah.
And then some people call it stupid. But I mean, they will do things. Sometimes it's a prank gone bad, or a response to an "I dare you," and then all of a sudden, all heck breaks out.
Yeah.
I had a mom come up to me Sunday after Daniel's sermon and say her daughter almost had to leave a school that they were at because of the cyberbullying got so bad.
Yes.
That one girl just targeted her and was just blasting her through Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram. And like Daniel said, social media bullying, it doesn't turn off.
No.
Right.
It doesn't
goes
end
with
when
you
you
all the
walk
time.
out of the gym or
When
the
you go home.
cafeteria.
Yeah.
It's there,
Yeah.
and it.
You can't escape it, really. If it's
Yeah.
happening at school, you go home, you at least have a reprieve. But cyberbullying is just following you everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, our parents would say, "Oh, just ignore them." Well, if it's on code and it's hard, you can't just say, "Okay, everybody, turn off your phone and ignore that."
Yeah.
Well, I wish we had better answers for that, but I know we don't. So, how do you, as teachers and healthy folks, or as healthy as you can be,
Healthy's all
how do you
relative.
find balance between the demands nowadays on teachers, being in marriages, active careers? How do you stay mentally healthy? There is an assumption that you are staying mentally healthy.
I am doing my best. Well, I mean, from a teaching standpoint, I have a better advantage, I think, because, and this sounds crass, but if I feel like I need to not go in for a day, I just don't take a sub job that day. If I'm just to the point where I'm like, I need a day off, because as a sub, you accept the jobs or you schedule the jobs and stuff, and so I can look at it and go, you know what, this is coming right after this, or I have a lot of work at church, I'm going to need this day to just take for me. But I think it's important to find fun things that you enjoy, which is why I love doing theater, and I just spent 2 weeks getting to pretend to be somebody completely different, with an animal, completely different, being a cat. And for a moment, you take all of that gunk, whatever it is that you're dealing with, and you leave it in the dressing room, and you go out and, in my case, crawl around on the floor like a cat and sing some songs and dance a lot and sweat and meet some great people.
Feed your soul.
And then you go back, and sometimes the gunk is still there, and sometimes you've been able to kind of work the gunk away.
Yeah. Barry, so
Yes.
you've taught almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Has teaching changed over those 30 years? Like your mindset about teaching from, you pull into the school parking lot, you get out of the car, and you're walking into that building. Do you walk in differently nowadays?
I do. It's sad.
Yeah.
The initial question, has my teaching changed? My teaching hasn't changed. It's the way I approach it that's changed. Gone are the times where I grew up in a small East Texas town where we could leave our house unlocked, our cars unlocked. We could go to school and not worry about some of the stuff that we're having to worry about today. So yes, when I'm at school now, unfortunately, I'm having to be a little bit more aware of what's around me.
Yeah.
I have to. We are being trained now. We're going through training on mass shootings. That's just a little uneasy for me. We're going to trainings now to make sure that when we step into an auditorium, we know where all our exits are.
Yeah.
That's disturbing to me.
And it used to just be how to keep that one kid sitting down.
Absolutely.
Right, and quit yelling or throwing gum. Or
We're not doing fire drills anymore. We're doing lockdown drills and mass shooting drills.
Yeah.
So yes, Doug, it's changed for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do you, as teacher, having all that going on your head, communicate cool, calm, we're going to learn today, and you're scanning your classroom to make sure you don't have that kid who's, ticking or withdrawing or doing this or doing it. I kind of make up this struggle.
There's no answer. I mean, there's no there's nothing we can do other than the training we're doing to prepare for that. It's just continuing to have that surrounding awareness.
Yeah.
There's no other way. It's sad. We're in a sad situation where we're having to worry about that, about walking down the hallway and
Right.
stereotyping, which we're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
And mine's more of the logistics. I think one of the reasons that y'all asked me to be here tonight is I said something one time in a worship meeting is, as a sub, one of the first things I do when I go in the room, of course, I get the roll and I look at everything, and then I stop and look, where would I put the kids? And, because I know the whole lockdown procedure, I have to look for the little fabric over the window and, what do I need to do? How do I, because the teachers, of course, have all done theirs, and pull the magnet out of the door, and I look at all the procedures, because I'm in a new room every time, a lot of times, like he's talking about looking for the exits. And I take a second and I sit there and I look for all of that, and I go, okay, where am I going to put the kids if this were to happen?
Yeah.
And the first time I had a lockdown drill was actually like the second or third day I was teaching, and I was an aide, so there was another teacher in there, and poof, it happened, and we put the fabric down, and we got the kids against the wall, and we're doing this and telling them be super quiet. And the administrators come around and knock on the door because they want to see if you're going to open the door. And of course, we didn't, and we're all doing this and being real quiet. And, I got a little teary. It was just that
I bet it's
we're
kind of
doing that,
unnerving. So, I love our offstage cues.
We were in one, though, for
You had a
little over
lockdown.
2 years ago, I think, that we were locked down for threats in the area, bomb threat, possible active shooter, and we were in there. We were locked down for a good 8 hours. And this
So
it's
you
near
were,
the
that's
end-
a long-
you were in your classroom
Yes.
with your kids for 8 hours.
That's a lot.
and near the end of the school day. So, yeah, as scary as that sounds, yes. I mean, I don't want to go into great detail, but we had kids who were needing to use the restroom, and we were
Yeah.
having to make arrangements, and it's probably one of the worst days in 29 years of education. When I walked out of that school, and we're walking through lines of armed men,
Oh my gosh.
SWATs.
Yeah.
A guy shook me a little bit.
Well, yeah.
Shook me a little bit.
Now, when you guys walked out that day, it was into the school day.
It was at night when we got out, so it was already dark. Yeah.
Wow. And parents were sitting out there terrified. Probably.
Parents were waiting a little more than probably maybe a quarter of a mile away from the school. So we were having to make our way through the police and SWAT and to get to the parents who were waiting across the street to check their kids out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine it takes a lot of, and probably did then and now, confidence, self-talk. Okay, we're going to get through this, guys, because any teacher, are still having to model, we got this, we can do this, and dealing with your own anxieties of maybe you have kids in the school, maybe, how's this going to end?
It's not one of those things where you want to say, guys, we're okay. I've been through this before. It's not. You really don't want that, but it happened. And we can only get better from it and do what we need to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
But it's reality. So, yes, it's changed. The original question, yes, it's changed.
Yeah. Have either of y'all had any teacher friends who said, I'm done, I can't do this anymore?
Trying to think. Yeah, probably not in a
Probably not for that reason.
Not that way. No, not for that
not
reason.
for that reason.
Just
Yeah.
to the point of moving on. Teachers work hard, and there's not they don't get in it for the money, obviously, and they if they're there because they love kids, and after a while, there are some that I think all the rest kind of weighs on them. But I don't know anybody specifically because of the fear
Oh,
of
good.
No.
I'm just weak. I
shootings
think I
and
would have
things.
said, okay, I'm going to be a Walmart greeter.
No, because I think their heart for the kids goes, you know what? I'm here for the kids. I know my husband, I know he would do whatever he had to do
Yeah.
to protect them.
So Barry's first day of school is tomorrow.
Yes.
What? Give me like your. Hey guys, I'm glad you're here today. Here's what we're going to try to accomplish this year. Do you have like a little pep talk you give every class right at the beginning?
Sure. I mean, the first few days for us, for me specifically, is, again, about setting a baseline for a foundation for establishing a relationship. They need to know, they need to become familiar with who I am, and in return, I'm going to become familiar with who they are. And then in return, we're going to be familiar with how the classroom's going to work. And so it's just a process. And as, again, 29 years, I want to say it's just kind of secondhand for me now, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to what's one of the greatest things about my job is, and I say this all the time, I get to do what I want to do every day, and I get paid for it.
Yeah.
And I get to have a different clientele every year. I mean, every year, and it's those relationships that you establish with them. And one good thing about social media nowadays, we get to keep up Facebook
Oh, yeah.
and see kids that you had in class
Yeah, that
29
is
years
cool.
ago, and watch their
neat.
families. But that's the great thing about the job that I'm in.
So for both of y'all, this is your probably maybe not only chance, but so you have these kids, you have a huge part of every day. What would you say to their parents? As far as, man, I wish parents would tell their kids this to help them get ready for a positive experience at school.
Woo, we don't have
Bite
enough
my
time
lip.
left for that. I would say it's okay to let them go. Okay, I'm going to treat your kids like they're my own.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that the majority of the staff feel the same way as I do. But let's cut the cord. Let's let them get out there and make some decisions. Let them fall down.
Right.
Let them get up on their own. We're going to
Sure.
be there to help them. But trust us.
Leave the helicopter mom out in the
Yeah.
parking lot.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say is when you first said, what would they say? And my first thought was nothing. They don't need to, because they're coming in. We want parents to understand they're coming in with people who are good at their job. Their department heads and their principals and everybody involved knows, they train, they work, they know what they're doing. And sometimes it might be a different choice than you would make, or, but they've got to trust, in their kid and let them have that opportunity. And like he says, to make mistakes and fail. And of course, just be who they are, and,
Yeah,
don't set a
yeah.
goal of, here's what I need you to be. Set a goal of be the best you that you can be. And
Sure.
let's see how that works out in this setting.
The word you just said, and I think you implied it, Barry, was trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that you care about their kid. Trust that you have their kid's best interest at heart. Trust your kid that they can make good choices, and that when they fall down and skin their knee, that they can brush it off, and they'll learn that they can be resilient. Right?
Yeah.
I think.
Right.
To me, that's the big, that was one thing I always wanted my kids to learn, is to be resilient.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something that knocks you down every day, whether it's physically or emotionally or whatever. Right.
And we like to think there's this magical words that if we say just the right thing, my daughter just is in her second year in college, and I spend this time of, if I say just the right thing, and I spent time going, now did I tell you this? Now did I tell you this? And it was, Mom, you've told me that over the time of about the past 6-7 years, and okay, I've just got to sit back and cross my fingers and, trust and put it in God, and God's still with her, and He's there with her, and He's here with me, and we can talk about it, and,
Yeah.
and then I've just got to kind of let go.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Doug.
This didn't hurt too bad.
Yeah.
No?
No.
All right.
No.
So thank you guys for watching. Next week, we are going to wrap up with a panel. We're going to have folks who are licensed professional counselors, LPCs, and be thinking about your questions for them, and hope you'll join us next Monday night at 8 o'clock. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.